Hi everybody, welcome to the show. We call it a show. It's actually a session in the court of public opinion. Sounds better, doesn't it, Pete?
It does sound better, yes.
Peter Clayton's behind the camera. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Welcome. We had a little moment a second ago, if you can have a moment a second ago. I didn't remember to put the microphone on. Little lapel microphone. Took me back instantly to so many occasions when I was starting out in this business, and I was doing all sorts of odd jobs around the place. One of them was reading the news, or not reading the news, doing the voiceovers and doing the weather forecast in the news at Channel 10 in Sydney, which was a very good, responsible, good, big-time job. And I can't count the number of times that I went over there to the weather set to do the forecast, and I had forgotten to put the microphone on. Live television. There's no way you can cover it. You're dead. Anyway, speaking of the weather, it's a very chilly day in the garage this day, the 24th. Peter's read the Riot Act. He says, your dates are going far too long. Pete, what do you want to do? You want to just tell me when I've done, maybe, what do you think?
About 5 minutes worth.
Well, give me 5 minutes worth of dates, and then we'll move on to the show.
Okay.
Or the news, or whatever this is. Social experiment, probably. 24th. Okay, here we go. Clock on. Clock on. 1830 on this day, Mary Had a Little Lamb. By Sarah Josepha Hale. First published by Boston firm Marsh, Capon and Lyon. Mary Had a Little Lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. You'd never get that published today, would you? No, you wouldn't. Queen Victoria, Queen of the United Kingdom and Ireland, born, well, not only the British Empire, which was quite extensive. Can't forget India, for heaven's sake. 1819, Queen Victoria, was born in London. Samuel Morse taps out on this day in 1844, Morse code. Samuel Morse taps out, what hath God wrought? To what he was referring, nobody knows. What hath God wrought? In the world's first telegraph message. 1915, on the same day, Thomas Edison invents the telescribe to record telephone conversations. Wow. Well, seeing as he invented the telephone, I suppose that's fantastic, and he's got a way of recording the conversations. Would seem to go together. 1844 and 1815 with Thomas Edison. 15 BC, Julius Caesar, Roman commander, born Roma, Italy, the Roman Empire. Born 15 BC, died 19 AD. Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit, Dutch, German, Polish physicist, inventor, instrument maker. He invents the thermometer and the Fahrenheit scale. He died in 1736, but this was the day he invented all of that. Fahrenheit, as opposed to Celsius. 16, my eyes are getting bad. 1686. Edward Duke Ellington, American band leader, composer, pianist. Take the A train. I don't mean a thing, or it don't mean a thing if it ain't got swing. Another one of his hits, but everyone knows Duke Ellington. He dies of cancer at 75. 1974. Bob Dylan, American composer, songwriter, Blowing in the Wind, Times They Are Changing, Positively 4th Street. Pete, what's your favourite Bob Dylan song?
The Girl from the North Country.
Girl from the North Country.
Yeah.
Yes, I can't really go by Blowing in the Wind. I think that was just wonderful. Cultural icon. He was born on this day in 1941. Bit older than me. When were you born, Pete?
When?
When? What year?
1950.
You were born 1950. You're just a kid.
Oh, if only.
God, I've got ties older than you. Heavens for... The world's largest cat-proof fence, 44 kilometres, completed in New Haven Wildlife Sanctuary, Central Australia, to protect endangered species, 2018. A cat fence. Gee, I've heard cats are pretty offensive. Nicholas Copernicus, Polish mathematician, who hated being called Copernicus. No, Mr. Copernicus, astronomer, theorised the planets revolving around the sun. He dies at 70 in 1543. The world's first auto repair shop opens in Boston, 1899. I wonder, 1899, there wouldn't have been many cars around for him to repair, but clearly it was a business. And Priscilla Presley, American actress, Dallas, Naked Gun, ex-wife of Elvis, born Brooklyn, New York, born same year as I was born, 1945. That's it, is it? That's 5 minutes. Okay.
Go on, I know you want to do another one.
No. You will... I've got to do one more.
Okay.
No, this is for you, Pete, honestly. 1930, 21-year-old Australian cricket master batsman Don Bradman scores 252 not out in a tour match for Australia versus Surrey at Carrington Oval in London.
Thank you.
That's all right. Folks, he's into cricket.
Oh, very much Don Bradman.
Oh yeah, I got some Don Bradman stuff around the place. I met him once.
Oh, I wish I had.
Oh, he was a lovely man. He was, apart from being a great cricketer, he was a very good businessman too. He had he was the chairman, managing director of Argo Investments, which was a very good, and I think probably still is, a very good investment company. So he had many strings to his bow, and I had the opportunity to interview him because he was publishing or publicising this published 2-volume collection of his memories. Wonderful, wonderful book, still very collectible. And I asked him about how I saw so many of his things, his cricket bats and all sorts of memorabilia signed by the great Sir Donald Bradman. And he said, well, I made a decision way back in the early days. I would sign nothing, and therefore there would be this crazy market where people would pay too much money, or I would make myself and my signature and my autograph available to everyone. And that's what he did, which is why you see so much Sir Donald stuff around the place. A very democratic, nice, very nice man. Now, in the news today, there is so much I really don't know where to start. Felmiri is a local builder. All right, probably more correctly should say was a local builder, got into receivership, lots of people affected. I told you months ago, I do remember that the building industry was going through one of its regular gyrations, one of the many. Problem is that if you're thinking of getting some building done, renovations, a house built, extensions, who can you trust to be there to do and finish the job? very, very tricky. Now, I left the program yesterday with the promise that we'd come back and talk about this frail 95-year-old woman, this lady who was tasered by police in Cooma, in the Snowy Mountains in New South Wales. And as I said to you yesterday, I wasn't there. So I'm not making comments based on information that we have all, everything I've seen, you've seen, via the news media. That's the only thing we've got to go on. And near as I can figure it, she was moving around in a walking frame, suffering from dementia. How badly? We don't know. She was holding a knife, a kitchen knife, or a steak knife, or something like that. Police clearly thought she represented a threat. I would have thought that the police would have been trained to cope with these sort of situations, but maybe not, maybe not. The recent Royal Commission into aged care came out with some significant recommendations, one of them being that everyone working in aged care should have special training to teach them how to cope with people suffering from dementia. This hasn't been done. It was a recommendation. It should have been made compulsory and universally. It should have been mandated. And I would extend that out, as I think I mentioned yesterday, to all the emergency services workers, as well as anyone who might be likely to come in contact with somebody affected, suffering from dementia. The whole experience would, I think, have been devastating for the police who were involved. The officer, you would probably have heard by now, has been suspended from duty on pay. What happens to his career? I don't know. 12 years on the job. Experienced guy that would be. Now, how much training they get, I don't know. But it's about diffusing. I think that's the best word. It's about diffusing a situation without inflaming it. Talking somebody down from a crisis, even if she or he is not rational or sane. It's not easy and it takes time. I well remember numerous occasions that I would get suicide calls while I was doing my radio show back on 5DN. People who are suicidal. It's difficult. And in this particular case, people who are suicidal, you could say it's a different scenario, because somebody in a situation like that who rings a radio station wants to be, he's asking for help. He wants to be talked out of killing himself. But what you've got to do is to just keep the person talking calmly. You know, I mean, it happened at least a dozen times in my 25-year career at 5DN. Scrap the commercials, scrap the news if necessary, keep the person on the line talking about his or her problem. This is a human life at stake here. This is very often the best way to calm things down. Time. I don't know if this 95-year-old woman could have been talked down. Don't know enough about dementia to make a comment. I don't know if the knife that she was holding represented a real threat or not. But let me tell you another story. One that I remember very clearly and sadly. Played out on television. You may well have seen it yourself. Played out on television in living rooms all over the world. The scene was Bondi Beach. I seem to remember it was a cold morning, It wasn't summer, it was cold. The police had been alerted that there was a man behaving strangely on the beach. It was about 7 a.m. when the police arrived, to be quickly followed by every television network news team. They set up an outside broadcast. They found a young man wearing only pyjamas and an overcoat, walking up and down the beach with bare feet, mumbling to himself in French, I think he might have been a French tourist, probably about 25 years old. Now, God knows what he was on. He could have been drunk, he could have been on drugs, he may have been having a mental seizure of some kind, but he wasn't behaving rationally. The police talked to him at a distance, not with a megaphone or anything, but they talked to him. Quite a drama. He had a knife, not a hunting knife, a kitchen knife. And yes, he was waving it around. All of this took about 20 minutes, by the way. Now, you may have seen the telecast because most of the stations chose to run it in their prime-time breakfast shows. The young man turns and walks not towards the police, but into the water. Police call out to him something. We never heard what that was. He turned around and one of the officers fired 3 shots. Kills him. Stone dead. To me, as an observer, that was cold-blooded murder. You could have just left him in the water. You could have just kept an eye on him. Sooner or later, the situation would have solved itself. He didn't represent a danger to anybody, in my opinion. If you're going to shoot somebody, by the way, probably try to shoot him in the shoulder or the leg. There were 3 quick shots to the chest. I think the whole episode was disgraceful. And I cannot tell you, sadly, what the follow-up was. I mean, did anyone go to jail? Was there an inquest? An inquiry? Must have been. What happened to the policeman? I don't know. I'll say here that it is obviously not easy to be a police officer. Man or woman, apart from the danger, it's the responsibility that goes with every single minute that you're on the job. Horrendous. Have I got time for one more, Pete? Okay. Now, we do live in an ageing society or community. There'll be great demand for nursing homes, for nursing home beds, a great demand for carers. Clearly, looking at this story, which is around, it was around yesterday, it's becoming less and less attractive for people to invest in the establishment or the running of nursing homes. Some say there's a fly whizzing around here. Poor thing wouldn't have much to live on in the garage. Anyway, looking at the story, it's less attractive for people to get into this business or this calling, because I've always thought that nursing homes were a calling, almost like the church. Some say the reason is too much regulation, some say too much expense, some say not enough return on the investment, too much risk. No, I think it's something like 66 nursing homes have closed in the past year. That is just terrible. Now, I don't know what we're going to do because we are all getting older. Sue Fraser, a lovely friend of mine, used to be the general manager of 5DN and well known at 5AD as well for many, many years. I mean, she and I used to talk about turning our place up here at Glen Osmond into the, what did she call it now? It was a retirement, not a retirement village, but a nursing home. the nursing home for broken down showfolk, and we would all be allowed to just behave outrageously. We could drink red wine, we could behave badly, we could play loud music, we could do absolutely anything we liked, which of course I don't know that in these nursing home places you are allowed that sort of freedom. I could be wrong. But the retirement village for broken down showfolk, I mean, there's an idea in here. Pete, do you want to put your name down? Well, speaking of broken down showfolk, and I don't mean that in any disrespect, tomorrow I want to talk to you about this Stan Grant thing, because, for God's sake, for heaven's sake, when he was not ripping into the coronation of King Charles, but as I said to you the day after, that the whole ABC coverage of the coronation, while it was largely taken from the BBC, they did top and tail it. Everything they did at the ABC was done through the lens of cynicism and sarcasm. Now the gentleman, Stan Grant, whom I have known for many years, he's thrown his skirt in the air and he said, no, I can't. Poor little petal. He can't take the criticism. I think there were 1,000 complaints about the ABC coverage of the coronation. I'm amazed that it was only 1,000. I think it was appalling what they did, verging on treason. Anyway, he has decided to leave, and blow me down if the managing director of the ABC doesn't apologise to him for not handling his defence in these matters well enough. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's do it tomorrow. Thanks for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Pete and I will be back tomorrow. Believe in yourself, and goodbye for now.